It's a story of Kitty Green from Derbyshire. Kitty Green was a lovely little girl who lived in Castleton, which is up in the north of Derbyshire. Great place, I love Castleton. And she's a lovely little girl, beautiful looking, well behaved, did everything she was told, except on one occasion, and that's what the story's about. It was a lovely summer's day, probably midsummer, and it was Sunday. And Kitty was supposed to be going to church. Her parents wanted her to go to church. And Kitty always did what she was told. But the idea of going in and sitting in that dark, dim, dank, rather damp church on a beautiful summer's day, she didn't want to do it. So she walked up the road, and when she got to the church, she just kept walking. Went on up the dale. It's called Cave Dale, and it rises up quite steeply, and obviously with the name Cave Dale there are caves all up and down the dale. And she walked up Cave Dale until she got to the top, and she came up on the top of the hill in the bright sunshine. It was lovely. And she sat down on the short cropped grass, short eaten by sheep and rabbits, the odd sort of bones of stones sticking up out of the ground. And she sat there and she went to sleep. And while she was laying there sleeping, the giant of the peak came along and found her and picked her up and carried her away to be his servant. And it wasn't very hard work being the giant of the peak servant. He didn't need her to do very much, and he didn't mistreat her or anything like that. And then one day he decided he was going down to the river to bathe, and he took Kitty Green with him, and he said, "I want you to look after my things while I go and bathe. And whatever you do, don't put the ball in the ring." He took off his ring and he had a little ball. "Don't put the ball in the ring." And he left Kitty with his things and he went into the river to bathe. Well, the obvious thing to do, if you've got a ball and a ring, whether you've been told not to put the ball in the ring or not, is to try and put the ball in the ring, isn't it? Or put the ring on the ball, just to see whether they fit. It's one of those natural things, you just do it. And so Kitty just put the ball in the ring at the instant when she was thinking to herself, well, I wish I was at home. And she was. And it didn't take very much trial and error over the next few days to discover that if she put the ball in the ring, whatever she was wishing for at the time came true. And that's where the story ends. But you can make up the rest of the story yourself, can't you? There are all kinds of possibilities. Did she keep on putting the ball in the ring and get all kinds of treasure and be rich forever? Did they all move away and buy a mansion somewhere else, or what? Perhaps there was a limited number. Perhaps you could only do it a limited number of times. I don't know. Make up the story. On the other hand, perhaps she put the ball away carefully in the ring, and perhaps it's still there in one of the houses in Castleton. It's hidden away up in the attic somewhere. So if you're near there, if you live in Castleton, I don't think anyone here does, but you could go up and search in your attic and make sure you haven't got it there and try putting the ball in the ring. So that's a little story from Derbyshire of Kitty Green.